How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now today we are going to take a look at the ML240RS and ML360R, which is all-in-one coolers from Cooler Master. Now the ML240RS is pretty much exactly the same as the ML240R, but with some really cool RGB lighting built into the side of the radiator. So now, starting off with the pricing just for these coolers, you do get different sizes between both the R and the RS models, but the two I have here is retailing for 2,000 Rand or $150 for the ML360R and 1,800 Rand for the ML240RS, which unfortunately I couldn't really find on Amazon or a Newegg as of yet, so I think it's still a bit too new for that. But they should be going around the $130 price point. As for the design of these coolers, they're pretty much exactly the same, except again that the one is a triple fan design and the other one does have the RGB on the side of the radiator. But other than that, they pretty much use the exact same pump, the fans and everything else. So for the pump, you get a pretty small pump head with two cables, one for power and then one for the RGB, and then the tubes on the side of the pump. On the bottom, you do get a copper cord plate with a fine micro channels for better water contact surface. The pump is also dead quite even at a max, only with the occasional water sound here and there, which we do get on pretty much all-in-one coolers. As for the lighting, you do get this cool RGB ring around the side of the pump and then also in the middle around the Cooler Master logo, except the Cooler Master text doesn't really light up, it's just the outline of the logo. The outer ring is, however, not extremely bright. It is a bit more dimmer compared to the inside the logo part, but you will still be able to see everything, all of the lighting and also all of the effects being applied. This does also apply to both the ML240RS and the ML360R. As for the tubing, you do get thick sleeved tubes that does feel very durable but still flexible enough so you can position your radiator wherever you want in the case without really fearing that it might kink the tubing. The tubes does also again connect to the side of the pump head, which does allow you to swivel it a small amount for a better positioning. Now getting into the radiator, both of these and pretty much all of the ML all-in-one coolers does feature a 27mm thick rad with a tightly grouped aluminum fins. Here we can also see that RGB on the side of the ML240RS, which also currently to my knowledge is the first all-in-one cooler with a RGB radiator. Now there are some custom loop rads that does have it built in, but for a closed all-in-one system, this is the first one. Now also, the RGB on the side is not crazy bright or anything. It's more of a soft accent light, but it does still definitely look cool nonetheless. Moving on to the fans, all of the all-in-one coolers does feature the same Master Fan MF120R fans, which you can also buy separately if you wanted to. They come in a single or a 3-pack for the 120mm options, and then a single for the 140mm. The fans uses a rifle bearing design, which does deliver good airflow and also keeps noise to a minimum. The 120mm fans have an RPM range ranging around 650 to 2100 RPM. Now as for the lighting, each fan does have 8 addressable RGB LEDs on the inside around the bearing, which does light up the entire fan with all of the fan blades, but we will get into all of the lighting and effects a bit later. Now installing these coolers are pretty simple if you do follow the manual. Inside the box you get all of your needed cables, mounts, and all of the features that you will just need for your RGB and power. Also, both for the AMD and the LGA 2011 sockets, they are extremely easy and quick to install. Just pretty much screw on the mounting brackets and then just connect it on. But there was just one small issue when using the standard Intel bracket. When installing everything, you had to push through the back bracket through the motherboard. Then you had to put in these rubber liftoffs, then the pump head, and then screw it all tight. And because of those rubber liftoffs not really securing the back plates, when you want to actually screw in the screws to tighten up the pump head, the back plate would just fall off and it would just be a mess. So if Coolmaster could possibly make that, instead of these rubber liftoffs, they could add some screws that will secure the back plate from just falling off the entire time, that would make it a lot easier. But again, you can also just put the entire case on its side, put something underneath the back plate and install it like that. But I think again, it would just make it a bit easier if they did have these screws instead of the rubber liftoffs. But other than that, installing the physical cooler was pretty simple. Now you will have to install the control unit that is going to connect all of your lighting and add on cables. And you're also able to control all of the effects and lighting through the control unit itself. If you don't want to use the control unit, you will be able to use Cooler Master's software, which is currently still in beta, however. So for connecting the fans and the RGB cables, it's pretty simple enough. Fans then connect to the PMW splitter, and the RGB for the fans, pump, and radiator connects to the three-way RGB splitter that then you just connect to the side of control unit. Pretty simple and easy to do. Also, just a nice feature on the control unit is that it does have a magnet to secure it in a place, so you don't really have to use double-sided tape. It's a mess, so with the magnet, secures it in place and you don't have to worry about anything. Now, as for controlling all of the lighting, again, you can use it either with the software or with the control unit itself. So on the control unit, you do get 4 buttons. The bottom 2 is for the LED speed and color adjustment, while the top 2 is for the RGB and ARGB modes, and then the mode adjustments, which is pretty much your effects. Now, as for the effects, you do get a bunch that you can apply, again, either on the control unit itself or in the software. So the effects you get is static, spectrum cycle, single slide, double slide, breathing, accumulate, dual lighting, and then off. Also, with most of these, you can then change the colors and the speeds of the effects. Now, Cooler Master also states that you are able to connect all of your RGB connections onto your motherboard, so you will be able to control all of the lighting and sync everything through the motherboard software, whether it's an Aura Sync, MSI Mystic, Gigabyte Fusion, or ASRock lighting software. But unfortunately, I wasn't really able to get this to work on my Aorus X470 Gaming 5 board, so I can't really show you exactly how this works. But I did also read up that a lot of people is having the exact same issue, where they're not able to control it through the motherboard software. So this might be a feature Cooler Master wants to add later on, because again, most of the software is still in beta. Hopefully we will get this later on, and then we'll be able to sync all of our components together just through one single software. But that's enough for all of the RGB and everything. Now let's get into how these coolers actually performed. Now, I installed both of them on my Ryzen 2700X, overclocked to 4.1 GHz at 1.375 volts. So on idle for the ML240RS, it was running at 39 degrees at 1200 RPM fan speed and 35 degrees at 1100 RPM on the ML360R. For gaming temps, the 240 was at 51 degrees at 1550 RPM, and for the 360 it was 44 degrees at 1400 RPM. And finally, under heavy blender workload, the 240 had an average temperature of 73 degrees at 100% of fan speed, and the 360 was at 67 degrees at 100% of fan speed. Also, it is just worth mentioning that when I did test out the 360, it was on a hotter day, and unfortunately I don't really have an aircon in my room, so I can't regulate the temperature, so that also might apply a bit more degrees towards the 360's temperatures. That's pretty much it for my review of these two coolers from Cooler Master. If you guys want to get both of these, or one of these, if you want to get both, you can. But if you want to get one, I will leave links in the video description where you can either get them on Rebel Tech if you live here in South Africa, or Amazon. Also, just mention, if you don't really want to have that RGB on the side of the ML240RS, can just go for the standard ML240R. It's going to be a bit cheaper and it's still going to perform exactly the same. So those are options that you can definitely go for and still make your system look really cool with all of the RGB and keep the temperatures to a minimum. But thanks for watching, guys. If you guys did enjoy this review, please like, subscribe, and comment like always, and I will check all of you next time. Cheers, guys.